In January of 1978, the United States faced one of the most destructive winter storms in its history. It was not simply a snowstorm. It was not simply extremely cold. It was a prolonged, violent, and relentless assault by nature, one that shut down cities, stranded millions, and claimed over 100 lives. 4 days, much of the Midwest and Northeast was paralyzed. Roads vanished. Cars froze in place. Entire neighborhoods were swallowed by snowdrifts taller than houses. This was the Great Blizzard of 1978. The winter that buried America. The winter of 1977 to 1978 was already unusually severe. Beginning in December, Arctic air repeatedly plunged southward from Canada, gripping the central and eastern United States. Temperatures stayed well below normal for weeks at a time. The Great Lakes began freezing earlier than expected, reducing lake effect moderation and intensifying the cold. Snowstorms had already struck multiple regions. Fuel shortages were a growing concern. People were exhausted before January had even reached its end. But none of that compared to what was about to unfold. Meteorologically, the blizzard of 1978 was the result of a rare and dangerous alignment of weather systems. In late January, a powerful high-pressure system settled over eastern Canada, forcing bitter Arctic air southward. At the same time, a developing low-pressure system moved east from the southern plains, drawing warm, moisture-rich air northward from the Gulf of Mexico. When these two systems collided over the Ohio Valley and Great Lakes, the storm rapidly intensified. Instead of moving quickly eastward, as most winter storms do, the system stalled. This stalling allowed the storms to continuously draw energy, moisture, and cold air, creating blizzard conditions that persisted for days. Snow began falling across Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, and Illinois on January 25. At first, the snowfall appeared ordinary. But within hours, conditions deteriorated dramatically. Snowfall rates increased to 3 and 4 inches per hour. Winds strengthened to hurricane-force gusts, exceeding 70 miles per hour in some areas. Temperatures dropped below zero, with wind chills reaching 40 degrees below zero. Visibility dropped to nearly nothing. Whiteout conditions made it impossible to tell where roads ended and fields began. The blizzard had arrived. The Midwest was among the first regions to be devastated. In Ohio, especially in Cleveland and surrounding areas, snowfall totals exceeded 30 inches. Snowdrifts reached heights of 15 to 20 feet. Interstate highways became impassable within hours. Thousands of vehicles were stranded. Some were abandoned mid-lane as drivers fled on foot. Others were simply buried where they stalled. In Michigan, rural communities were completely cut off. Emergency responders were unable to reach stranded families. Snowplows themselves became stuck or disabled. In Indiana and Illinois, winds whipped loose snow into massive drifts, making clearing efforts nearly impossible. The presence of the Great Lakes added fuel to the storm. As cold air passed over partially frozen water, it picked up additional moisture, intensifying snowfall in downwind regions. Lake effect snow bands added to already staggering totals. In some areas, snow fell continuously for over 48 hours. The storm's persistence made it one of the most punishing winter events ever recorded in the region. One of the most haunting images of the blizzard of 1978 was the sheer number of abandoned vehicles. Entire stretches of interstate highways were transformed into frozen parking lots. Many drivers underestimated the storm, attempting to commute or travel despite warnings. As conditions worsened, vehicles stalled, fuel ran low, and engines froze. Some motorists survived by sheltering in their cars for days. Others attempted to walk to safety, often losing their bearings in the blinding snow. Tragically, not all survived. As the blizzard continued, it expanded eastward into Pennsylvania, New York, and New England. The storm reached the Northeast on January 26 with devastating force. Snowfall intensified, and winds strengthened as the system interacted with Atlantic moisture. Coastal flooding became an additional threat as powerful winds pushed seawater inland. Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Connecticut were among the hardest-hit states. Boston experienced sustained winds over 50 miles per hour, with gusts nearing 80 miles per hour. Snowfall exceeded 2 feet in many locations. Cars were frozen in place along city streets. Snowdrifts swallowed entire vehicles. Public transportation shut down completely. For the first time in state history, Massachusetts Governor Michael Dukakis declared a total driving ban. Only emergency vehicles were allowed on the roads. It was an unprecedented decision, and a necessary one. For millions of Americans, daily life ground to a halt. Businesses closed indefinitely. Schools were shut for weeks in some districts. Grocery stores ran low on supplies. In some neighborhoods, residents tunneled through snowdrifts to reach neighbors. Second-story windows became primary exits. People rationed food, fuel, and heat. In the absence of mobility, communities turned inward, relying on one another for survival. The blizzard of 1978 claimed over 100 lives across the United States. Deaths occurred from exposure, heart attacks brought on by strenuous shoveling, carbon monoxide poisoning from improper heating, and traffic accidents during the storm's early hours. Emergency services were overwhelmed. Ambulances could not reach many calls. Hospitals struggled to maintain staffing as workers themselves were stranded. Each fatality told a story of how unforgiving the storm truly was. As conditions worsened, state governments mobilized the National Guard. Military vehicles were deployed to deliver food, fuel, and medical supplies. Snowmobiles and tracked vehicles became essential tools for rescue operations. In rural areas, National Guard units went door-to-door checking on isolated residents. It was one of the largest domestic emergency mobilizations since World War II. One of the defining characteristics of the blizzard of 1978 was its duration. Unlike typical winter storms that pass within a day, this blizzard lingered. Repeated waves of snow and wind battered already buried regions. Cleanup efforts were undone repeatedly as new drifts formed. Some areas remained snowbound for over a week. The psychological toll was immense. When the skies finally cleared, the scale of destruction became apparent. Roofs collapsed under the weight of snow. Vehicles were damaged or destroyed. Infrastructure repairs took months. Economic losses reached into the hundreds of millions of dollars. But perhaps the greatest impact was on how Americans viewed winter weather. The blizzard of 1978 exposed serious weaknesses in forecasting, communication, and emergency response. In its aftermath, weather prediction models were improved. Snow emergency plans were revised. Driving bans became standard policy. Public awareness of winter storm dangers increased. The storm reshaped how the nation prepared for extreme weather. More than 4 decades later, the blizzard of 1978 remains the benchmark against which all winter storms are measured. It is remembered not just for its snowfall totals, but for its power, persistence, and human impact. For those who lived through it, the memory remains vivid. The blizzard of 1978 was more than a weather event. It was a reminder that despite modern technology, nature can still bring civilization to a standstill. It buried America in snow, tested endurance and compassion, and it forever changed how the nation prepares for winter. The blizzard of 1978 will never. When people think of New Jersey, they think they know it. Crowded highways, endless suburbs. A state wedged between 2 massive cities, New York and Philadelphia. But beneath that familiar surface, there exists another New Jersey. Quieter one, an isolated one. A place of forgotten towns, abandoned institutions, strange communities, and landscapes that feel completely out of place in America. Hidden in plain sight. Today let's uncover 15 of the weirdest, most isolated sides of New Jersey. Places so unusual, so overlooked, that many residents don't even know they exist. This is not the New Jersey you see on postcards. This is the New Jersey America forgot. 1. The Pine Barrens, America's forgotten wilderness. Covering over 1 million acres, the New Jersey Pine Barrens are one of the most mysterious regions in the entire United States. Despite being surrounded by some of the most densely populated areas in the country, the Pine Barrens remain largely untouched, sparsely inhabited, and eerily quiet. The sandy soil here is so poor that traditional farming failed, forcing early settlers to abandon towns entirely. What remains are ghost villages, overgrown foundations, and forgotten cemeteries. And then, there's the legend. The Jersey Devil. For over 300 years, locals have reported sightings of a winged creature roaming these woods. Hoof prints, strange screams, and unexplained encounters continue to fuel one of America's oldest cryptid legends. But beyond folklore, the Pine Barrens are genuinely dangerous. People have gotten lost just yards from paved roads, never to be found again. In a state famous for congestion, this wilderness feels almost impossible. 2. Batstow Village, a town frozen in time. Deep inside the Pine Barrens sits Batstow Village, a former iron-producing town founded in the 1760s. Once a booming industrial center, Batstow supplied iron for the Revolutionary War. Then the industry moved on. The town didn't burn, didn't collapse. It was simply left behind. Today, Batstow stands eerily preserved, empty buildings, silent streets, and structures that look ready for residents who will never return. Visitors often describe a strange stillness here, as if time itself decided to stop. 3. At the vanishing town of Walpack. Walpack Township is one of the least populated municipalities in New Jersey. At one point it had thousands of residents. Today, fewer than 10 permanent residents remain. In the 1960s, the federal government planned a massive dam project that would flood the area. Residents were forced to leave. Homes were abandoned. Entire families disappeared overnight. The dam was never built. But the people never came back. Walpack now feels like a living ghost town, roads leading nowhere, houses slowly collapsing, and silence so deep it feels unnatural. 4. Gates of Hell, Clifton. Hidden beneath suburban New Jersey lies a place locals call the Gates of Hell. These massive drainage tunnels, built in the early 1900s, have become an underground legend. Urban explorers report strange symbols, flickering lights, and unsettling echoes that don't seem human. Whether it's imagination or something else, one thing is certain. You're not supposed to be here. And once you're inside, there's no clear way out. 5. The Desert of New Jersey. Believe it or not, New Jersey has a desert. Nicknamed the New Jersey Desert, parts of the Pine Barrens resemble arid wastelands, with sandy soil incapable of supporting dense life. It looks nothing like the rest of the state, and feels more like the Southwest than the East Coast. 6. The Forgotten Asylums. New Jersey is home to some of the most haunting abandoned psychiatric hospitals in America. One of the most infamous is Greystone Park Psychiatric Hospital. At its peak, it housed over 7,000 patients. Overcrowding, poor treatment, and neglect led to widespread abuse stories that still echo through the abandoned halls. Many believe these buildings are haunted. Others say the real horror was what happened when they were still operating. 7. The isolated town of Blairstown. Located near the Appalachian Trail, Blairstown feels separated from the rest of the state. Surrounded by mountains and forests, it's quiet, almost too quiet. Locals describe a strong sense of isolation, especially during winter months when snow cuts off access roads. 8. Sandy Hook's dark past. Sandy Hook may look like a peaceful beach destination, but its past tells another story. Once a military defense site, it contains abandoned bunkers, missile silos, and forts hidden beneath dunes. At night, the wind howls through concrete countless ghost stories. 9. The Lost Villages of Round Valley. Beneath the waters of Round Valley Reservoir lie entire submerged towns. Churches, homes, roads, flooded intentionally to create drinking water reservoirs, These communities vanished forever, their remains still resting beneath the surface. 10. The Blue Hole of Hope Township. The Blue Hole is a deep, mysterious body of water hidden in the woods. Its depth is unknown. Its water stays icy cold year-round. Multiple drownings have occurred here, leading locals to believe something pulls swimmers down. 11. The Cult Communities of New Jersey. Throughout the 20th century, New Jersey hosted several secretive religious and spiritual communities, some peaceful, others controversial. Isolation allowed these groups to exist unnoticed for years. 12. The Abandoned Racetracks. Once roaring with engines and crowds, these tracks now sit silent, reclaimed by nature. 13. The Devil's Tree. A single tree with a violent history, locals claim it cannot be cut down. Every attempt failed. 14. The Forgotten Islands of the Jersey Shore. Communities accessible only by boat disappearing as sea levels rise. 15. New Jersey's last true ghost towns. Scattered throughout the state are towns that simply ceased to exist, leaving behind nothing but foundations and stories. New Jersey isn't just highways and cities. It's isolation. It's mystery. It's forgotten places hiding just beyond the exit ramps. And while millions pass through this state every year, most never see what lies beneath the surface. The strangest places are often the ones closest. When people think of New Jersey, they think they know it. Crowded highways, endless suburbs, a state wedged between